Hey guys, what's up, creative ones? Oh, so I had to come on and just guess our internet is down. All these power outages, all these outages all over the world in different ways. Yeah, kind of fascinating. We always have really good high-speed internet here, so which I'm so grateful for. Um, but today, right now, in this moment, it is out. I guess my phone is wanting me to shift a little bit. Okay. So I just want to wrap this video. If you're watching this on YouTube or somewhere else, definitely go check out my Instagram, the part 1 to the energy update, which is part 1 of this video, this transmission on releasing trapped trauma. This is really, really big, and I want to share my own, where I was sharing my own experience, what I'm seeing in the collective, what I'm seeing with my clients, and within myself, and this, for me, in the last couple of months here in Bali, it's been this, I had this intense, severe, energetic reaction, allergic reaction. So I want to dive into that a little bit more. So I was sharing a little bit in the previous video some of the emotional patterns that I was waking up to and bringing into consciousness and healing and shifting and seeing my part and, you know, why it created some of my own dynamics relationally, especially around receiving and abundance and support and being super, you know, independent and, being a solo parent and an entrepreneur and all of these things, which are all great. As we accelerate into the 5th dimension, we have to learn to co-create. We have to learn to collaborate. We have to learn to open up both the right, left brain, both the masculine and feminine channels of energy, of our wholeness. The masculine and the feminine principles. And of course, what's really happening right now is we are having a beautiful awakening and a recalibration within our own wholeness energetically as a planet, but also within the collective and individually. So those of us that are innovators and way showers and leaders, we have to do this work from the inside out first, right? So, okay, so diving into that, so I was having these intense, like my hands were swelling up, my lips were swelling up, and it was like a huge physical response. And meanwhile, like, I do creative alchemy, and I was sharing this in the first video, like, this is, after having a studio in Austin for 10 years and doing retreats in Martha's Vineyard and Costa Rica and all over the country, West Texas, doing intuitive painting and supporting people in their own creative blocks, I realized, right, that I started to see a pattern that a lot of the blocks that people were having creatively were emotional blocks. They were limited belief systems, so they were psychological blocks. They had physical symptoms, and that's how I really channeled the creative alchemy process, which if you want to receive this free alchemical art activation, it will help you release trauma and guide you through it, using creative expression, using painting as a medium, as a modality to transmute this energy, to release it with love and to turn it into beauty and joy and passion and purpose and prosperity. So download it at melissadantoni.com. You get a free link to the activation when you subscribe for my newsletter. Okay. The link is also probably below in my website, depending on where you're watching this. So I was having these, meanwhile, I've been in an active Kundalini awakening process since 2004. So the way that I have metabolized and learned to channel this energy, right, this life force, this Shakti, all Kundalini is creative life force energy that gets awakened at the base of the spine, and it purifies you. It purifies every aspect of your being, and it's really, many of us are going through that collectively. Many people say that the earth is actually going through that, and we are of the earth. So as we awakened, as we awaken, we have to learn to transmute, and this is how we grow and evolve. We transmute this energy multidimensionally, and we step into our energetic bodies, right? Our light bodies. We step into, we activate, yeah, our spiritual gifts. We activate our emotional maturation, and we do this by learning how to transmute that energy from pain into power, from pain into wisdom. Like, every emotional experience has a gift for you. We've been so conditioned to fear our emotions, and it's really conditioned to fear our own power, because all emotion is energy in motion, right? That's actually our creativity. It's our life force. It's our life. It's God force moving through us, right? And it's ours to metabolize, channel, and learn to express in co-creative ways, to be on purpose. And the more we can do that, the more of our own mastery, the more integrated, the more fulfillment, the more abundance, the more love we experience in life. So for me, I had to really learn to ground this energy, this gift, and I was really blessed and have been blessed to be surrounded by many, many people that especially back in 2004 when I was getting my master's in transpersonal psychology with a focus in creative expression at the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology in Palo Alto. I had a lot of mentors within the Institute, and also my spiritual mentor, Dorothy DeVac from the Center of Excellence, who I ended up training with as a coach and a spiritual guide, really held space for me. They did not pathologize my symptoms, my experiences, the energetic stuff, the visions I was having. They really were able to hold space for me so that I could safely metabolize this and stay grounded, right? Because it can be, I don't want to deny the intensity of these experiences that we're all having. They are intense. Sometimes they feel life-threatening, right? There's so much fear that can come up, right? But just know that you have the power within you. It's a conscious choice, and it wouldn't be coming up if it weren't yours to learn to master, if it's not serving you in some way. And it is a conscious choice. You have free will to metabolize it or to be a victim of it. So I'm all about learning how to empower yourself with it, right? Creatively, and to have fun with it, and to step into your mastery. So I used creative expression, dancing, movement, lots of baths, salt water, Epsom salt water. It's a big reason why we're here at the beach. This beach here, there's so many energetic, I was definitely called to this beach and to commune, right? We've been here since last May, living here in community. It's been amazing here in Bali. And a big part of that was the energetics of the earth grid. So I'll get into that. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm just excited, and I'm getting all these downloads to share with you. But and I've been doing grid work and energy work here and recalibrating my own energetics. Well, there's magnetic sand here. There's a volcano nearby called Mount Agung. You might have heard me talk about it, where the energetic ley lines of the Earth's polarities cross and purify. This is why so many people come to Bali to heal. It's to recalibrate your energetics. So if you have a really strong masculine polarity, right? Very linear thinking. When you get to Bali, it's going to be, Bali is going to give you exactly what you need. It's such a healing place. It's going to give you, you're going to be almost forced to you're going to cultivate these life experiences that are going to force you into flow, force you into healing your feminine and principle, and activating and awakening and transmuting and purifying that polarity, right? My retreat last year here last January was initiation into flow. And man, did I get it. Like, I got it as the facilitator, retreat leader. I had to, when I landed in Bali, I was like, oh no, we have to move the retreat to Uluwatu. It was scheduled for Kuta, and I was like, oh no, because I'd never been to Bali before. But that was being in the flow. I had to cultivate being more into the flow, right? And more surrendered into that, so that I could balance my own energetics and also support the recalibration of others as well. So, magnetic sand. If you just go and put your feet in the sand here, it's black sand, it's magnetic, it will ground you into Mother Earth, it will ground you into Gaia, and it will recalibrate your fields. Of course, and then there's the beach and the salt water and the incredible surf spot too, but it has it, you know, the earth is so healing in itself in terms of your own recalibration, and that's why Bali is so significant as a place to come for retreats. I now get it, right? I resisted it for a long time, right? I almost, like, when I was called to Bali, I was like, oh, everybody goes there, everybody does a retreat there, and now I really understand why. You know, it's there's so many deeper layers. Okay. So back to my allergies experience. So I was having these like intense allergic reactions. They were getting progressively worse. I was having to take medication. I was going to doctors. I didn't go to the hospital because the system here it would have actually made it worse probably. They didn't have EpiPens. So it was like, I want to stress this, like, if you're having intense physical responses, definitely go to a trusted medical, functional medicine doctor, or, you know, somebody trusted that you can. I have a doctor friend here, so I called her. You know, I went and did different alternative treatments like ozone therapy, and, you know, talked to other doctors and stuff like that. Nobody could figure out what it was. Like, I was like, is it shellfish? I've eaten shellfish my whole life. I was picking up sea urchins, which are in abundance here, and I didn't realize that the ones here were poisonous, and, you know, it could be the poison from the sea urchin. Like, we just didn't know what it was, or I could just be detoxing heavy metal, or there's something in the water. You know, I went through all of these theories. The reality is we really didn't know, and I've tested it, muscle tested it. I didn't do the lab testing, but again, my theory, and this is just my theory with everything systemically, is that it really depends. Any tool, it's like any facilitator, you're going to only heal up to the level of consciousness with which the tool was created, right? And facilitators are also, and healers are really just tools. They're activators. They're healing activators. You have the power to heal yourself, right? So in my own journey, my own discernment, I was like, yeah, I mean, I could test it, because I've had this experience with Sophia, my daughter. Like, I've tested her for eczema when we were in Austin, and she was, you know, didn't really come up with any allergy except for a slight antibody to egg whites. And then, of course, they told her just to keep eating eggs, and eventually she grew out of it and hasn't had eczema since we left Austin. But we also thought it was maybe the water, which it turns out Austin does have some water issues, which is so ironic, because talking about the Earth's grids and the energetics, it's right over San Marcos, which has this incredible, like, you know, aqua, like, underground, like, massive energy portals and water lines, like pure water lines, aqueducts underneath the land in that area. So that it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that too, and to see how we evolve into really tapping in, because water is like a currency. And another reason why I use it in the creative alchemy process, because you can transmute, like Dr. Emoto's research, you can express and transmute with your intention through the color, through watercolor, through tempera paint, right, through your fingertips. That's what creative alchemy is all about. It's a multidimensional quantum tool for releasing trapped emotion, trapped trauma, density, resistance, any resistance that comes up. An allergenic response, I've learned this through my own journey, is resistance. So the other thing that was coming up for me around this time is we made a decision to start a business in Indonesia and to stay here. So, and to up level and to really go for this next level vision of creating a community and a healing next level, you know, healing school for alchemical arts and extended retreats and co-living, and like a really big vision, right? And to do that meant I had to let go of a bunch of stuff, right? Beliefs about myself, trapped emotions. So all this stuff, once I made that decision, right, things started to move really quickly on some levels. And then it's on other levels, my body was resisting it. There were subconscious trauma programs, right, that I had to clear in order to receive the support that I needed, the next steps, right? The resources, the clarity, the wisdom, the next level identity. Like, I could not and cannot take with me these beliefs that I'm a victim of my reality, that I'm not safe or protected by divine law, which is a whole nother video. Because when you're living and activating your soul's purpose, and when you're truly surrendered to divine will and choosing to express that and be a conduit of source at the highest level, man, you are protected. You are protected in daily miracles, right? But you have to be in integrity with all of your dimensions, right? And be really in service to the heart and to the greater heart of source. Yeah. Okay. What else do I want to say about that? So I was having these allergic responses, and I started knowing and hearing, okay, I could be, and getting curious, I could be releasing trauma. And trauma that's not even mine. Like, I was thinking back to my grandfather who was in the Philippines, who suffered, and my mom just wrote a really beautiful book called 7 Bowls of Rice, which was a big part of her own healing journey. So you can check that out on Amazon by Maria D'Antoni, about my grandparents' story and my grandfather's story of being a prisoner of war in World War II and surviving the Bataan Death March and being a Japanese prisoner of the 3 hell ships and escaping them. The incredible torture and starvation and, just intense abuse that he suffered, and how that affected our family when he came back as well. As a child of God, it's just, the effects of war and violence on our families, and these cycles of abuse, and how that trauma, if it doesn't get healed, it gets passed down through generations. I mean, being in this active Kundalini awakening process since 2004, I've been clearing and working with these themes and knowing this for a while. Like, I was clearing stuff that was not mine. I was moving through sadness that was like, I remember the first time I had this intense energetic awakening, and I felt the soul of the grief and the soul of the world. And it was so much bigger than anything I experienced in this lifetime, right? Because in many ways I've had childhood traumas and stuff, but I've lived a pretty charmed life, right? So there was, I knew it wasn't of this lifetime, and maybe not even mine, So keep this in mind as you have stuff coming up. It doesn't matter if it's yours or if it's your ancestors, you're being called to evolve it. And I think that's really important. So use the tools, learn to transmute it, learn to express it, release it, give it a voice, give it a self-expression. When we do that, we honor it. It transforms. And then you can rewire the pattern, and through creative alchemy, you can do that. And you can find that link on melissadantoni.com when you subscribe. Okay, so I was talking about in the other video the emotional pattern that was also coming up for me that I was seeing in relationships, and that honestly I realized even just journaling yesterday that some of these patterns I wasn't ready to accept the truth, right? That this was my experience. There was some form of denial and self-protection. Hence, what is an allergy? It is a form of self-protection, right? And this kind of goes into, I want to dovetail a little bit and talk about self-sabotage. I don't believe in self-sabotage. I think it was Teal Swan who did a great video about this a while back, so you can Google that too. But it's really about when we up-level, when we go for our dreams, when we take risks, when we take risks that expand beyond our current self-identity and programs, right? All of our shit's gonna come up, right? All the unhealed trauma, all the old belief systems. It's not that the universe is testing you. It's quantum. It's like a quantum leap. all the stuff that you cannot take with you must be transmuted. It must be released. It must be evolved. It must be, transmuted. This is the transfiguration of Christ consciousness, if you want to call it that, right? It has to meet with the love of Source, right? Of your loving presence and compassion and passion and action. You have to take action on this. This is not a passive thing. You can't just surrender to it. You have to be a willing co-creator to transmute this pain into power, into passion, and into prosperity, right? That's what's being called for right now. So I really invite you to do it, because every time, and remember, whenever you go through these pockets of density, whatever weird shit's coming up in your life, you have the power to transmute it. Ask your higher self to show you the tools, the guides, the facilitators, the trusted supporters that you're being kind to connect with now, that are going to support you on this journey, so that you are empowered, right? And you're clearing that, and you're evolving out of that victim consciousness and collapsing the polarities and integrating the duality, so that you are really operating from your own wholeness. But remember, when you shift this stuff, and it's so fast to do it with creative expression. I also like tapping. I think they work really well in tandem, especially in grounding, the kind of rewiring of the belief systems. But tapping is also a multidimensional modality. In fact, creative alchemy and tapping are probably the only two that I know that access all the dimensions: the mental body, the physical body, the emotional body, the spiritual, and the energetic body, right? It has to be in that physical form. And of course, I think painting in particular accesses more of the emotional energy that tapping doesn't. So, you can't tap yourself out of rage. It's like, I'm fucking pet. It's like, no, you need to give that a voice. You need to move it out of your body, right? And then rewire it with the tapping. So I think they work really well together. And that's personally how I've used them. There's also a lot of tapping. So how I got back into tapping too, as a supplement to creative alchemy, was that I had these allergies, and somebody was like, "Oh, you can tap yourself out of a shellfish allergy," and I was like, "Really? I'm gonna go look into this." So I did, and I started doing that with the creative alchemy, and then the karmic alchemy, which is a bigger, deeper process using painting and ceremony. It's deeply shamanic in terms of letting go of these karmic patterns. And traumas that are consistent. So I was using all of these tools in the last week or so, and I literally, my allergic reaction and responses, I have not had to use any cortisol cream, any antihistamines, and it's completely dissipated, right? Again, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical doctor. And I am a multidimensional, facilitator and alchemist, and creative alchemist and energy worker and trained psychotherapist. So I've worked in mastery on all the dimensions, but I'm not a medical doctor. So if you're having severe symptoms and you feel like that you need to get help, do it, right? I'm just sharing my experience. So... And I did too. Like in those severe instances, I absolutely got medical advice and care. So what else did I want to say about that? Okay, so then I was looking at the emotional pattern around having my vulnerability, and again, we're seeing this collectively right now in all the systems, being weaponized against me, right? So how this shows up is when somebody asks they want to support you, or they're coming in like they're going to support you, and then you ask for what you need, and then they use it against you to manipulate you, or to punish you, or to shame you, or to criticize you. And if you still have unhealed trauma around this, which I had another layer because I was in a big denial with regards to this personal relationship of mine, where actually it was two that were marrying each other, where I was able to see, oh, this is why this feels normal to me, because this was part of my upbringing, right? And it's deeply unconscious, and I'm sure deeply unconscious for the person that was also that was doing it, perhaps, you know. Um, yeah. What else do I want to say about that? So people cannot manipulate you, right, with those kind of tactics of emotional terrorism unless you allow it, unless you have healed those parts. So whenever that gets triggered, two things. One, there's more to clear, there's more trauma, there's more soul retrieval, right? So take it to the paint. Two, be discerning about how you let it, who you let in for support, and also give yourself some love and compassion. Like, these are learned behaviors, these are deep ancestral patterns, and trauma is that we are clear, and karmic patterns that we are clearing. We have to clear to evolve. We can no longer perpetuate it. And it's not about blame, but it is about accountability, right? You want to hold the other person accountable in relationship, but more importantly, you can't hold anyone else accountable. You just have to be accountable to yourself. And if you speak your truth and someone continues to weaponize your vulnerability and take advantage and disrespect your boundaries, then they're not an energetic match, and they're not coming with you into this next level of expression. And it's really important to be clear about that. You know, no, it's nobody's job to respect your boundaries. It's yours. And I learned this a while ago, and it's so true, right? So remember that it's no one's job to respect your boundaries, your energetic boundaries, your physical boundaries, your emotional boundaries. It's your job. If somebody is disrespecting you, you are and you're allowing that, you're tolerating that, you're ultimately disrespecting yourself. Yeah. So that pattern was coming up. I was having these physical reactions. I just made this decision, right, to stay here and to build a life here for the next couple of years, to build a business and to really go for it. Yeah, which we were kind of like, do we go back to the States? Do we stay here? What am I being called to do? And I really got, yeah, we're being called to stay here. And it's really exciting, and there's been a lot of support for that. And a lot of wonderful co-creators that have showed up here in Bali, building this wild school and these extended retreats and doing it here at Commune, and then making plans for future growth, and co-living and buying land and, you know, creating sustainable communities are really, really, really a big part of that vision. So this is how it's showing up for me. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, so feelings of like not being able to breathe and feeling suffocated. And I'd done this painting with one of my groups last December where it was almost like I couldn't breathe all the way down into my body, and it was showing up in my ribs and my lungs. And that was sort of the feeling as I was clearing the trauma. It was like, I can't breathe fully. I can't breathe it down into my hips. It was kind of stuck. The energy was stuck. So then I would rewire it. So with that, I was able to move through it, and also and just to be in that observer and be really curious about it, you know, in terms of the physical responses and what was coming up and coming out. Like, I didn't attach to a story around, oh, this is my grandfather's trauma, or, you know, my ancestors' trauma, or my trauma from a past life, or it kind of tested when I did the kinesiology of it for a little bit of everything, right? So you don't need to know the story to clear it. And so it keeps you more objective, actually, because we can get so into the story and then we attach to it and then we identify with it, and it takes longer to clear. Like, it doesn't have to be that long. You can clear the stuff really quickly. So once I got it and I got the lesson, I got what it's teaching me, because obviously I have clients that I facilitate this process for. So I had to go through it myself, right? On a really deep life birth threatening level, right? Because as a solo parent, you know, I was like, you know, I need to make sure that, that I'm responding to my ability to stay in this body, to clear this trauma, and to stay in this body, right? And be here for my daughter. So really, really powerful. What else did I want to say? I have a little more fruit while I'm thinking. There was another layer about that. Oh, So, thank God I've read, and I highly recommend this. I give this to all my coaching clients who do business, a lot of business work with me, and up-leveling their business to 5D. So I started to remember this book I read years ago, and I recommend a lot in my coaching program, especially in the the Creative Sovereign, which is my private mentoring program. If you're interested in that, for elevating into 5D, you can private message me for an application process. I have 2 spots available right now. So interesting. So I remember The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and maybe some of you guys have heard of it. But Gay Hendricks is a wonderful coach, he and his wife, and he's coached executives, musicians, stars, in taking big leaps in their business. And he calls it the upper, you hit this upper limit. That's what your comfort zone, it's like your comfort zone. And I've seen this in the studio and in the creative process, right? Because in any creative process, I tell my clients this all the time, you're going to hit resistance. It's just part of the creative process. It's part of growth and evolution. You're going to come up against your resistance. You're going to come up against your ego programs that are going to they're going to cultivate a lot of fear and tell you that it's, and self-doubt, and you can't do it, and da-da-da-da, and don't let go of this, and don't do this, and da-da-da. But if you listen to them, you stay small, you stay stuck, you stay not growing. And if we're not growing, we're dying. We're either growing or we're dying, right? So check in with yourself. What are you choosing? And get the support that you need to feel courageous, right? And sometimes you have to work with a mentor to borrow that courage, right? To borrow that sense of safety and security, for them to be like, they've been through it, like I've been through it, I know how to guide you through this stuff. And so that you can take those leaps, right? And you can unstuck yourself, you can unfuck yourself, and take that quantum leap into your own evolution, into what you're being called to create at this time, into your own authority and sovereignty and leadership. Really, really important right now. Because if you allow yourself to stay stuck in the fear and the limitation and what society is doing and what mass consciousness is doing, you're gonna just continue to suffer, and it's going to get worse and worse until you decide to take the leap. So you might as well do it now. I will say that using the creative arts process makes it easier, because it does work multidimensionally, to take those quantum leaps. You move the energy, you feel the fear, you transmute it, you face it, you dispel it, de-armor it, right? You choose, you decide, and on the other side of that is the expansion, right? You feel it vibrationally first,